Nobody can claim ignorance about the electoral violence and thuggery that has characterized our elections in Nigeria since our return to democracy in 1999. Nigeria has lost many young men and women to electoral violence in many parts of the country, and in many cases, results that emerged from our electoral circles are far from being satisfactory to many. But are these issues enough to label the two major political parties in Nigeria, APC and PDP, as a terrorist organization? This issue has been on the front burner in the last 5 days since the alleged declaration by a Canadian court. How did we get here? Welcome to Get Involved. As usual, I have with me here Ishaya, Ibrahim, and Dayo, Emmanuel, joining me from Lagos. You're welcome on board. Dayo, please take it up from here. We have an interesting guest with us in the studio, so I would like Mr. Dayo to introduce him to us as we kick the ball rolling.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here again, and we have a special guest across the ocean in our midst this evening. It's no other person but Mr. Seyi Olowu is in the house with us from Canada, and Seyi Olowu is an activist and is a social campaigner. He's an environmentalist and the founder of Future Savers Sustainable Development Initiative. Future Savers Sustainable Development Initiative is an environmental friendly organization that has championed the climate change issues. They have done a lot of advocacy in different states of Nigeria, and the organization is also represented in Canada, where he is based now. So Mr. Seyi Olowu is in the house, and I think we can listen to him right now.
This is Ishaya. We just want to know when you got the news, how did that sit with you that the major political parties in Nigeria, APC, PDP, have been labeled terrorist organization by Canadian authorities?
Yeah, thank you. At first, I want to say thank you for having me here. When you see news such as that flying around the internet, you want to be very curious and then think about it, because such news can dent your image as a Nigerian anywhere you are in the world, And I think where I first saw the news was on the Gazelle, the international news platform, and so many other news platforms and houses started carrying it, and it became like a trend online. So, but then I kind of went deeper into the news by doing my own personal research, because whenever I read about anything online, I take it with a grain of salt first and try to get more detail as to what happened, So I read more into it, and I saw that it was a ruling in Canada, in a case where a Nigerian politician named Douglas I think it's Igareva, something like that. Igareva. Yeah, Igareva. Yeah, who is a Nigerian politician that was seeking an asylum status, in Nigeria, in Canada here, and then the application for the asylum was rejected, and it was rejected, and he appealed, but it was thrown out, of course, and I think it was based on the fact that of his affiliation and membership, with an organization in Nigeria called PDP, a political party, from the period of 1999 to 2007, right? And then based on that, and then there was this act. There is this act in the Canadian Immigration Appeal Division that states that if you are seeking refugee into this refugee status into Canada and you belong to any organization who have engaged in acts of subversion, against a democratic government or terrorism, it's based on that ground alone, you are not admissible into Canada, and based on that, it was rejected. I have no 100% information if the court, kind of talked so much about terrorism, but I know the act kind of weaved subversion and terrorism together. So if they accused PDP and APC of terrorism itself alone, I wouldn't say I know 100%, but of course, I know that subversion, it's a very big deal in this part of the world. When you involve in election subversion, you are not admissible in this part of the world. And I think that's a big shame. And we all, as Nigerians, know that things like this have been going on for many, many years, decades even, when we don't respect voters' I would say interest in an election. So I felt disappointed. I am not happy about it, and I hope that things get to change. So that's how I took the news when I read it.
But can I just do a follow-up on what you just said? Is it going to be fair to lump all members of these political parties? It's like, it appears to me like guilty by association. It does not negate a very basic principle of justice, where people suffer the fate of others. Some other person may have done wrong, but because you're associated to that person, then you are now seen as one and the same. Because the PDP and the APC, their manifesto does not, or their manifestos do not advocate for violence, for subversion. But if in the course of election, you have violence and subversive acts, should that be a basis to now punish every member of that political party?
Well, I understand your question, and when you have a membership of an organization, you are a member, not just by mouth or word or anything, but you're duly registered. It shows that you believe in the values, the ethics of such organization, and then you're not just affiliated, but you're a part and parcel of such organization. Except you have renounced that you do not belong or you do not believe in such values and ethics of such organization. On such ground, you might be exempted. But in this case, there are investigations. If you follow the election, I know you do, you are a journalist, the international bodies, from this part of the world, they will come to Nigeria, for example, during the election, then conduct investigations. And then when they find such intimidations, ballot snatching, things like voters intimidations and violence in elections, which has actually it's a thing now in Nigeria that Nigerians are now used to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a big deal anymore, and this has become a trend from 1999, 2000, and then actually in this case they stated 2023, 2003 and 2004 local elections. And then the fact that the party itself did not come out and denounce it or deny, that shows that even if it's not part of their manifesto or whatever, or their memorandum, they exhibit such, and then they allowed it to happen, and then a lot of people complained. On that ground alone, because you're a member and because you have allegiance to such organization, you can be inadmissible to any country if they look into the matter. Do you understand? Because when you fill a lot of forms, even here being in Canada, when you want to join any organization that is, government related, they kind of ask you if you have any affiliation or membership to any political party. They ask anywhere in the world, wherever you're coming from as an immigrant. So if you say yes, they want to look more into it to know the kind of organization you really belong to. You understand? So on that ground, because you're a member, a registered member, if he was just a supporter, that might not hold water, but the fact that he is a registered member, that's for the court, they believe that it's not enough. And then if you follow the trend very well, because I followed, the PDP and the APC, made a statement, right? They made a statement, saying it's a disgrace and things like that coming from the court here, which rightly so. And then I have no strong opinion, but I read from what lawyer Falana said, saying they should sue them. If you think you don't do these things, then you should sue them and then prove to the world that you don't support such. So if they can do such and have evidence backing it, and they are not being thrown away in the court of law, then we know that they can stand their ground, and that will also be of good. It will be of good interest to their members as well, not facing things like this in the nearest future. Yeah.
Okay, Ishaya, before Dayo comes in, I would like to make a few comments here. I think this is an interesting time in our history as Nigerians, because I noticed that recently, if I am filling in some forms online, this question about whether you are politically exposed has become a constant factor in certain forms that I'm filling. So the issue of the court declaring, I think that judgment came in regards or in context with that particular individual who is now in Canada and is seeking asylum. And they say that, I think they may not put it this way, but the implication of that is that if you have come from a party that has, at many times in the past, prevented Nigerians from being able to build a good democratic system, why do you want to come here into our country to find asylum? If it was not important for political parties to respect democratic principles, why would you seek an asylum in a country that has worked so hard to ensure that the country is safe? I learned that you even have a minister for safety or something like that in Canada. Is that right?
I would try to check and confirm that.
Okay.
But I'm sure they might have.
So in Nigeria, even though, as Ishaya said, that no political party openly encourages such, but when they benefit from such violence and thuggery, you don't see them stop it. You don't see them stop it. So my problem with Nigerians is that we are always in a hurry to want to defend ourselves when somebody else is trying to describe the situation in our country, as if that were not the case. We all know that there has always been gangsterism, thuggery, and electoral violence in Nigeria. So we don't really have the time to define what terrorism is in the broadest sense of it. But I'd like to recommend a YouTube video by one Don Aza in his YouTube channel. I think I hope I got the pronunciation well of his name well. He has done a very good job on describing what terrorism is. At this point, I would like Dayo to say a few things. Dayo, let me put the ball on.
Well, it's an interesting time and it's an interesting story. And when it comes to electoral vices, there are a lot of them in Nigeria. We have the vote buying. We have people that buy votes during the election. We have the vote buying. We have the thugs. We have the ballot snatching. There are a lot of vices when it comes to electoral electoral activities, and our electoral act actually prohibits all the, when you want to cast your vote, it has to be in secrecy. You don't have to display the ballot, you know. And it still happened. We still saw the former president Muhammadu Buhari, when he was going to cast his votes in 2023 election, he displayed it, and it's contrary to the electoral. I remember a colleague displayed his, and I tackled him that you don't know. He was saying, a colleague said he was going to display his vote so that you can know that he's voting candidate A or candidate B. So I told him, I challenged him that if you read through the Electoral Act, the latest version, it's contrary to but unfortunately, we saw Muhammadu Buhari, as he was going to cast, maybe to show that he actually voted this man, he displayed it, which is wrong. So there are a lot of things happening in our system which the world is watching. The world is watching us. Now the ball has come to the tables of our leading political parties. An asylum seeker, you have been a member of a party, maybe has even benefited so much from that party. Now Nigeria is not conducive for you again, and you can't go to Canada in the right way. You are now going to be an asylum seeker. That's a shame for somebody who has carried cards of political parties in Nigeria. Now, the United States of America recently said now that if you apply to come to the US, they are going to check your social media history for the past 5 years. And I think that is the right way to go. If a Canadian court can give this ruling, tagging, labeling the two foremost political parties in Nigeria as terrorist organizations, though I have problem with that, depending on their own definition of terrorism. I have problem with that anyway, because we know terrorists here as the Boko Haram, the Hezbollah, and the other ones, which, terrorism is a kind of label that nobody wants to associate with. Now, you have associated our ruling party and the foremost opposition party. So you have wrapped up the whole of Nigerian political system as terrorist organization, courtesy of the activities allowed, because we've not seen anybody that has gone to jail now for vote buying or for ballot snatching. Maybe I don't know. So Nigerian authority should now, as a matter of urgency, to defend the democracy that we have practiced since 1999 by fishing out the bad eggs among them. Fish them out. Then our political office holders who have been accused of one thing or the other, thuggery, corruption, should not be allowed in such countries. So I think when the battle comes to them, they will know how to behave.
Beautiful.
And how to
Beautiful.
Okay.
But for the terrorism appellation, the tagging, labeling, I don't want to agree with that.
Okay, I will come to Ishaya. I'm sure Ishaya too agrees with you on this point, that a Canadian court should not label a whole group of people as terrorist organization.
Yeah,
but they did
out the individuals.
But their case is not against Nigerian political parties. They brought evidences against that particular individual who took them to court because they refused to grant him asylum in their country. And that is why they brought out all the evidences of political thuggery, violence, and intimidation in Nigeria. And this is why I want to pose this question now to Ishaya, who also obviously has a problem with a Canadian court describing Nigerian political parties as terrorist organization. Ishaya, would you say that what constitutes a terrorist? Is it just by declaration with a word of mouth, or is by actions and inactions of an individual or a group of people?
I think terrorism, by definition, is the use of violence to achieve political aim. I think that's just the core definition around it. So the Canadian court cited examples in Rivers State in 2003 where the violence was extremely huge. The applicant, that is Mr. Douglas, claimed that he's from Edo State where such violence didn't take place. But like our guest rightly put it, he had never put himself on record denouncing the actions and the activities of the political party, the PDP, that he was a member at the time. But when it comes to the act of subversion, I know that a lot of these folks in high offices are involved in it, like vote buying. Vote buying is subversion, it's a subversive activity against democracy. And I feel surprised that how come we don't have voices against vote buying in our various churches, mosques, even among political class like the governors, the president, the leaders of the parliament, because it appears that they are beneficiaries of these activities, so they find it conducive to tolerate.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming this way.
It makes the point that subversion could be a strong point against that individual.
Beautiful. So I was going to ask you that, doesn't that constitute an act of terrorism? Now it doesn't matter whether it's an individual or it's a group of people. The truth is that these political parties have all been associated with this subversion of electoral processes.
Yeah. So that's even the question I wanted to even pose to our guest, Mr. Olowu, okay. Because it appears that we have virtually now we are now at home with this political culture of vote buying, of thuggery, of writing election results. I think the people in Canada will find that to be very strange. So, Mr. Olowu, can you just give us your own perspective on this? If you lived in Nigeria and now you're in Canada, when you want to do compare and contrast, how would you look at it?
Oh, it's actually it's something you can actually compare, because when elections are going here, you even barely know if there is election. Number one. Number two is you don't find like posters anywhere to even indicate that there is an election going on, right? So you as a resident here or a citizen, you don't even know. And the politicians, send letters to us in our houses. You go, so we have a mailbox outside here, and you can just open it. You will see something like a card or sometimes a letter directing such letter to you, and then campaigning based on what they want to do in your constituency, for example, saying this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do if you vote us as a party, and then these are the plans, and then that's it. You don't even have to have conversation. And if you want to book an appointment with them, you can say, I would like you to book an appointment with you just to learn more about you, and they will give you audience. They will tell you the appointment dates they have. You go to their office, then you meet with them, and then you speak to them. If you want to volunteer, it's only volunteerism here. If you want to volunteer to be part of their election campaign, not campaign like Nigeria, for example, maybe speak to people at your workplace, maybe be on ground during the time they want to vote, maybe to help them with ballot box or something, or anything that they want to do, even with the government, you can volunteer. It's not monetary. It's not something you have anything to gain. But it is because we have a society that works, a society that doesn't allow anybody to feel like they need someone else's favor or someone to give them money to be able to live or to do, or return a favor monetarily. It's even a crime here if you're trying to, except you want to tip someone for a service, and that's legally acceptable. But when it comes to like bribing or trying to like even cause someone like to do something or to vote for you, it is not happening here. So you can't even compare. And let me tell you, This is Canada. This is a first world nation. But I have also lived in India a couple of years ago, and I can tell you, even in India, when I was schooling there, they will have elections, and you won't even know. You won't even know that there is an election going on. That's how we have
public holiday.
We are so. What did you say? No what?
It's a no public holiday. No public holiday.
No. Everybody go to their workplace and stuff. There is nothing like that. You know, if you want to vote, you know the time to vote. There is no queue, nothing. You can even vote online. Even here, you can vote online. You know, so the chances for something like election buying or anything is not there. Elite people vote. People talk about who they want. To come in. They know why they want this person. And then they can nobody even say, oh, you must vote for this person, or would you vote for this person? Nobody cares who you're going to vote for. But the people talk freely about who they want. We have two major parties. We have the Liberals, we have the Conservative Party here in Canada. So the truth is, you can't compare this with the barbaric situation, because when there is election at home, there is tension in the city, there's tension in the country. People are scared to even go out, you have series of issues. That's when some people are so happy because of their thuggery. That's when they will exhibit all these barbaric behaviors. There is no security and all that. But these are things that we don't have to be worried about. Even the last time they voted here, they voted in a church around my vicinity, in an Anglican church. That's where people go into to vote, and that's it. So it's quite unfortunate that we have this situation back home, but I can tell you that it is not even anything to be compared with.
From your location there, what are the few things you think we can apply to our own system that can at least improve the situation?
I think one thing is not to monetize anything. Okay. Unfortunately, that's the situation. People see election as a way to make money in Nigeria or to feed. We need to make sure that election is not something we are so crazy about, like to the extent that people who are vying for a position in government should see it as serving the government. Back home, we have full-time politicians. I've always been saying this. We shouldn't have full-time politicians. We should have regular people that are their 9-to-5 job or business, who are going into becoming a politician. People here, they do both. You can be an election, you can be a politician and still have a job. During the time you're serving, you might not be able to work actively. You must suspend that, because nobody guarantees that after that you still become a politician, so be relevant. You might not be voted for. So what happens? How are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to feed? How are you going to live? So people always have something to fall back to. So the problem is, there must be a law in Nigeria that says if you want to be a politician, you must have a job, you must have a business, you must have a track record of something. And because there is no guarantee, but because people go all in, it is a do or die affair, and that's why you see a lot of thuggery. But if you're fine, you have your job, and then the salary of the thing of politicians should be something that equates minimum wage, so that why do I have to take, you see it as a job, you say, well, why should I have to take this job? You know what I mean? You must have a reason. Then passion will be backed. Then you must back it with passion. So if you don't have passion for it, you will not be able to do it. So those are the things. Basically, we should try to make politics as simple as just politics, as serving people, and not like where you're going to, I think you want to go make money. When you can do that as a country, I believe that election subversion, violence will reduce drastically.
We've listened to the very, very beautiful and insightful comments from you. We would like you to tell us how this kind of development would rub off on Nigerians living abroad, not only in Canada, but in several parts of the country, the world.
Yeah, I always am of the opinion that whatever, we can run away from what is happening in Nigeria as Nigerians abroad. We can, and if we have a government who doesn't really care about its citizens, or who doesn't care about the reputation, of its own reputation. It definitely would cause a lot of problem in terms of the value that we represent as Nigerians. So news like this definitely would rub off on us to say that the major is into election subversion and quote unquote terrorism, and that doesn't speak well of us as Nigerians. So I would hope that we have a government that represents our interest very well by doing the right thing, by making sure that the image of Nigeria globally everywhere in the world is protected. It's all about image rights, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like when you have a good image and then your image is protected, you can brag anywhere in the world knowing that your country doesn't have any affiliation to all those issues that we are talking about. Nigeria should be at a level where we have the likes of Dubai or even India, let's say, that we can brag that we are doing something and we are going towards the right direction. No one is saying that we have to be perfect now, but making the right choices, making people have freedom to vote, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and many things like that. Now, freedom of speech being protected, according to the human rights laws. It's very important to making sure that as Nigerians living abroad, we are living with pride and not with shame, or we can't even, when they say Nigerian, because of whatever is flying on the news, you can't even defend yourself, even feel proud yourself. So I would advise that we have a better government that puts our interests at the forefront of everything they do, so that we can have good image while we live abroad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Seyi. That would be it for now. We thank you so much for spending your time with us. We look forward to having you again another time. I hope you would join us when we invite you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you to my big boss, my big brother, my Egbon, Mr. Dayo, for inviting me. I appreciate you and every one of you guys.
We've had a nice time and we've had a great guest, and I know our viewers are going to pick one or two things, and our leaders and leaders to be will get to pick one or two things, and it's a cause for sober reflection when Seyi mentioned that once you get out there with your green passport and you are being treated differently, that's when you feel it. But now we are home and we don't need passports, so I don't need a passport to get to Alex in Abuja or to visit Kaduna or anywhere. But it's when we step out of the shores of this country that we know that things have changed. So we should all be responsible. Our leaders are not imported. Our leaders are from among us. So everybody should try to behave well so that it can affect and positively, on a positive note, global image in the international community. Thank you.
One of the takeaways from what she said is how elections in Canada and India, where he has lived before, there's not so much attention given to. It's not a money venture kind of activity, but you see in Nigeria, it is a big deal because people make a living from political party process and elections. And these are some of the things that we should begin to speak against. I hope for a situation where the federal government revenue sharing formula is reversed. Currently, the federal government gets 58% of every revenue collected at the federal level. So I want a situation where that 15% is given to local government, because local government are the closest to the people. The state government gets 26% currently. So that 26% should actually go to the federal government, while the states get 20%. So if we have that kind of revenue sharing formula, I'm telling you that people will be fighting more to become local government chairman than the president of Nigeria. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ishaya, for your take. Thank you so much, Dayo, for your take. I will also want from what Seyi has said. The most important thing is to have a Nigeria where politics is not a career, where Nigerians who have their discipline or profession separately can come into politics just to come and serve. The situation where people get into politics because they think that is the quickest way of becoming rich is a big problem, and until that is dealt with, we will still keep going around the same circle. With this, I would like to close here. I thank you, our viewers, for staying with us today and get involved. Make sure you get involved in what is happening around you. And in case you haven't yet subscribed, please kindly subscribe and share this video so that we all can grow together. Nigerians, let's get involved. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.